My husband had the same nightmare every night for 6 years. He never told me what it was about. After he left, I found a journal under the floorboards. Now I know. And I understand, finally, why he could never stay. My name is Sarah Ellison, and I want to tell you about the year I spent reading a book I was never meant to find, and what it taught me about the person I thought I knew completely. Owen and I met when we were both 29. He was quiet in a way that felt like depth rather than distance, careful with his words, present in a way that some people never manage. When Owen was in the room with you, he was actually there, not somewhere else in his head, not performing attention, just there. I fell in love with that quality before I fully understood it. We married after 2 years, bought a house, built the kind of life that looks exactly right from the outside. Good jobs, good friends, weekends that filled themselves. Happy, or close enough to happy that I didn't examine the gap too carefully. The nightmares started in the first year of our marriage, or that's when I became aware of them. Maybe they had been happening before and he had simply hidden them. He would wake at the same point every time. Not screaming. Owen wasn't a man who screamed. He would wake suddenly, completely, sitting upright in the dark with his breathing wrong and his hands gripping the sheets. I would reach for him and he would be damp with sweat. He would say he was fine. He would get up, go to the kitchen, come back 20 minutes later, and lie down again without explanation. I asked in the beginning, "What is it about? What do you see?" He always said the same thing, "Just a dream, nothing real. Go back to sleep." After the first year, I stopped asking. Not because I didn't care, because I understood, somewhere below conscious thought, that asking was not the door into this. That whatever it was, Owen had decided I was not going to be let through, and pressing the door would only make him hold it more tightly. So I learned to lie next to him in the dark and listen to him breathe his way back to normal. And in the morning we would have coffee and talk about other things, and the night would fold back into itself like it had never happened. 6 years of that. He left on a Wednesday in March. Not dramatically. Owen was never dramatic. He told me over dinner, quietly and carefully, that he thought he needed to go, that something in him wasn't working the way it needed to work, and that it wasn't fair to me, that I deserved someone who could be fully present, and he wasn't sure he ever could be. I asked him what he meant. He said, "There's something I've been carrying for a long time. I don't know how to put it down, and I don't know how to share it. And I've been trying to figure out for years whether I can be the husband you deserve while carrying it. And I think the honest answer is no." I asked him what he was carrying. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "I'm sorry, Sarah. I really am." He moved into a furnished apartment across town. We separated legally but cleanly. No anger, no accusations, just two people disassembling a shared life with as much care as they could manage. I kept the house. He took what was his. For 3 months I lived in the house and tried to understand what had happened. I didn't find the journal right away. I wasn't looking for it. I had no reason to think there was anything hidden. Owen had taken everything he cared about. What remained was furniture, shared objects, the ordinary accumulation of a shared life. I found it because of a loose floorboard in the bedroom closet. I had been reorganizing after the separation, pulling everything out, cleaning properly, the kind of thorough sorting you do when you're trying to reassert ownership of a space. The floorboard shifted under my foot. I looked down, noticed it wasn't flush the way it should have been. I pried it up. The journal was there, small, dark blue, held closed with an elastic band. His handwriting on the cover, just one word, the year we married. I sat on the closet floor for a long time before I opened it. The first entry was dated 2 weeks after our wedding. His writing was small and careful, the way he did everything. He wrote about the nightmares, the first time in any form I had ever seen him acknowledge them. He described what he saw, not in detail at first, just the shape of it. A road, a car, a specific quality of light that he said he could never describe accurately, but recognized completely when it came. I read slowly. The entries were not frequent, sometimes weeks apart, sometimes longer. But each one returned to the same images, the same road, the same car, the same moment he always woke before finishing. By the third month of entries, I understood that this was not a dream in any metaphorical sense. He was not processing anxiety or stress or some vague psychological weight. He was re-experiencing something specific, something that had actually happened. I kept reading. In an entry from our second year, he wrote this: "I have never told anyone the full truth of what happened that night. I have told pieces of it to the police, to the counselor they required afterward, to the lawyer, but the full truth, the part that lives in me, I have told no one. I don't know if I ever will. I know that carrying it alone is wrong. I know that it is making me less than I should be for the people I love. I don't know how to choose differently." I put the journal down, got up, made tea I didn't drink, came back. That night, a road, a car, the police, a counselor, a lawyer. I opened my laptop. I want to be careful here about what I say and how I say it, because what I found is not fully mine to tell. It belongs to Owen. But I will tell you the shape of it, because without the shape, none of the rest makes sense. 8 years before we met, when Owen was 21, he was in a car accident. Not a minor one. A collision on a rural road late at night that killed the other driver. Owen had been at fault. Not criminally. The investigation cleared him of charges. The conditions were poor. He had not been drinking. The other vehicle had crossed the center line. He was legally innocent. He did not feel innocent. The other driver was a man in his 40s. He had a family, a wife, 2 children. Owen had attended the funeral. I found a small reference to this in a later journal entry, written in language so compressed and controlled it was almost unbearable to read. He had stood at the back. He had not introduced himself. He had not spoken to the family. He had carried that room with him for 15 years. Every night. The road, the car, the moment before impact that his sleeping mind replayed endlessly, searching for the version where it went differently. I sat with all of this for a long time. Then I did something that I am still not entirely sure was right, but that felt, in the moment, like the only honest thing I could do. I called Owen. He answered on the second ring. Surprised to hear from me. We had spoken only practically since the separation. I said, "I found the journal." Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. Then he said, "Where?" "Under the floorboard," I said. "In the closet." Another silence. "I should have taken it," he said quietly. "Maybe," I said, "but you didn't." I heard him breathe, in and out, the same way he used to breathe in the dark after the nightmares, finding his way back. "How much did you read?" he asked. "All of it," I said. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he said, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "I'm not," I said. and I meant it. "Owen, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know how to be the person who told you," he said. "I didn't know how to be someone who carried this and still deserved the life we had. I kept thinking I'd find a way through it, that one day I'd wake up and it would be smaller. It never got smaller." I said, "Did it ever occur to you that carrying it alone was what kept it the size it was?" He was quiet for a long time. "Yes," he said finally, "it occurred to me." We talked for 2 hours, the longest real conversation we had ever had, longer and more honest than anything in 6 years of marriage, which is its own kind of grief. He told me about the accident. Not the facts, I had those, but the experience, what it had felt like in the seconds after, what the silence of the road had sounded like, what he had thought in the years that followed about the man's family, whether they were okay, whether they had rebuilt, whether there was any version of the universe in which what he had done, even unintentionally, even legally, could be accounted for. I listened to all of it. At the end, I said, "You should have told me." "I know," he said. "Not because I could have fixed it," I said, "but because you didn't have to carry it alone. That's what I was there for." He said, "I know that now." We didn't get back together. I want to be clear about that. This is not that kind of story. Some things, once they've pulled apart, don't reassemble into what they were. Too much had been shaped around the silence. But something changed between us. A formality dissolved. He started calling occasionally, not about practical things, just to talk. He told me he had started seeing a therapist, a good one, someone who specialized in exactly what he had been carrying. He told me the nightmares had become less frequent. I told him I was glad. I still have the journal. I've thought about whether to return it. It's his, after all. But something stops me. Not possessiveness, more like the feeling that it found me for a reason, and that giving it back prematurely would be closing something before it's fully finished. I don't know what I'll do with it eventually. Here's what I want to leave you with. We share our lives with people, and we believe we know them. And in most of the ways that matter, in the daily texture of a life, in how someone treats you, in what they reach for when things are hard, we do know them. Owen was who I believed he was, careful, present, genuinely loving. He was also carrying something so heavy and so private that he had decided, wrongly I think, but humanly, that it was his alone to bear, that love wasn't wide enough to hold it. I spent a long time being sad about that, about the 6 years of nightmares I had lain next to without ever reaching the truth of them, about the marriage that ended not from cruelty or betrayal, but from a man who loved me and couldn't find the door to say so in the way that mattered most. But I've come to understand something about that kind of silence. It isn't always about the person being kept in the dark. Sometimes it's about the person doing the keeping and what they believe they deserve. Owen didn't tell me because he had decided, somewhere deep and inaccessible, that being fully known would mean being fully seen, and being fully seen would mean facing the verdict he had been running from for 15 years. Not my verdict, his own. The floorboard moved under my foot on an ordinary afternoon and gave me the answer to a question I had stopped asking. Sometimes that's how truth works. Not dramatically, not through confrontation or investigation or careful strategy. Just a loose board and the willingness to look down.